Welcome back to the Boomtown podcast. Today I'm really excited. I've got a guest here from the National Weather Service, Todd Barron. He's the meteorologist in charge there. So I'm Cameron Walker, your host, broker owner of Cameron Walker Realty. So we're going to dive right in. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Glad to have you here. Like I know Todd and I know each other outside of this podcast.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of weather conversations over the years, and he's my main line for information. When I get the number one question people ask me when they're moving here or considering a move here is, what about tornadoes? Do you have tornadoes? You know, have you seen a tornado? So we got a tornado expert on our hands here. So we're going to dive into that today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Moontown, I like the name of that, like the name of the podcast there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I worked pretty hard on coming up with that. It's
Yeah.
not usually, I'm not that clever typically, but this one worked out.
Yeah, I like it. Good job.
Cool. Well, Todd, me having grown up in Alabama, I'm really experienced with severe weather. I don't have the storm anxiety a lot of people do that may live here, or especially those that are considering moving here.
Right.
So some of the things I go into and talk to them about, a lot that I've learned from you and other meteorologists, are things like a lot of times the weather setups that lead to severe weather, we know about well in advance. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, nowadays, the forecast that we have, especially for big events, whenever we're talking about tornado outbreaks, we can pinpoint those, kind of early on. Now, we can't really pinpoint them to say that they're going to hit this neighborhood or that neighborhood.
Sure.
But we know what the setup is going to be. So we know generally that, the North Alabama region is going to be impacted potentially 7 to 10 days out, which with much better confidence on, say like if it's going to be Northwest Alabama versus Northeast Alabama, about 3 to 5 days out. And once we're getting into that, days 1 to 2, 1 to 3, then we can start talking about timing, more specific impacts, and then, the big tornado threat. That's on everyone's mind.
Absolutely. And that dovetails with exactly what I see living here, right? So I have my local meteorologist I like to follow. And, a week out, we start getting, hey, heads up, don't make big plans next Thursday, right?
Right.
Then, a few days out, it's like, don't make plans Thursday morning,
Right.
And then it's like, okay, Thursday morning from 7 to 11, don't be on the interstate.
Right.
And that kind of makes me think of it. There's some do's and don'ts on severe weather days, some ways to keep yourself safe, to really prepare and stay out of the storm's way when we don't know where something's going to land at any given minute. The idea is to not be in the way, kind of give it a wide berth. So what are some do's and don'ts on those severe weather days?
So even before the severe weather days, looking outside right now, it's fairly benign. We had some severe weather yesterday move through, but a day like today is a good time to start preparing and start knowing like what your risks are. If you have to go out and get batteries for a weather radio, hey, now's the time to do it. If you need to trim some trees back from the house or branches back from the house, hey, maybe today's a good day to do it. So think about what your plans could be now while the weather's nice, and so you're not rushing to do that whenever the weather's about to turn bad about 24 hours out, like
For
a
sure.
lot of people do.
For sure. Go around the house, pick up anything that might be a projectile out in the yard. Yeah. And those
Right.
kind of things for sure.
Yeah, tie down those trampolines. Alabama State bird right there. It doesn't take much to get those things flying. But no, there's a lot of things you can do. Even putting together a kit, a severe weather kit. Like what I always say about severe weather kits too is that it doesn't matter if we're talking about earthquakes, severe weather, hurricanes, or like a zombie apocalypse. It's all the same. So you just need water, non-perishable food. I always say bring extra socks and shoes in that. Just if you ever seen like tornado debris, there's nails all over the place. And just go to ready.gov. It's a FEMA website. They have a lot of good information about what you can do to build your home kit.
Cool. Absolutely. That's something we have a dedicated space in our house. It's our storm shelter. And that's, with kids, we're constantly having to like replenish the shoes because they outgrow them. Right.
Oh yeah.
So my feet have stopped growing, thankfully, but for theirs, every time we get new shoes, the old ones go in the storm, safe area.
Yeah.
And that way, like to your point, like I've definitely seen the videos and the footage, right, of if a tornado hits something, the house gets obliterated. Like sure, there's nails, glass, God knows what everywhere.
Yeah, this is nasty. It's nails, glass, bugs, ants, snakes, all that good stuff. So yeah, so it's good to have a good pair of shoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nearby, yeah.
So another thing like we always keep on hand are like bike helmets in there because and then you correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always heard one the highest thing of fatality source is actually head strikes from debris.
Yeah. So I mean we say, bike helmets and then get into your safe location for a reason. Yeah, anything that could be falling, because if you're in a structure that is going to be susceptible to, crashing in, yeah, you want, keep your head protected there. So yeah, good thing to have.
Yeah.
Bike helmets, football helmets, hockey, whatever, just something on your head, I think is pretty good. If you don't have that, you have two arms. So we've done this in school so many times where you get in the hallway, duck and cover your head with your arms. That's a good last resort too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, all right. So our safe place in our house, I know you could have a basement, you could have a storm shelter. I see a lot of those when I'm out showing houses, or just a central room, right? Something
Right.
that's far away from windows and exterior walls as possible.
Right. So the best place you could be is going to be in a actual storm shelter, an actual built to code storm shelter. They could either be, you see a lot of these in the garages. Some people have them built in their backyards. Some people have them like, I don't know if they're still building them like underneath the garage and stuff like that. But like, there's a lot of them out there. Those are going to be the best places to be in. They're going to be the highest rated. And so as long as they're kept up pretty well, you're not using it as the storage area for the like kids sports stuff, then it's going to be a good place to go. And also I say, like, if it's going to be outside or underground, make sure that it's waterproof and you get all the critters out of it too, because the last thing you want to do is to go into the storm shelter just full of snakes and fire. So if you don't have the storm shelter, a basement is going to be the next best place to be underground. If you don't have a basement, most interior inside room of your house, first floor, is going to be your safe place to go. So if you have an interior closet, an interior bathroom, or a staircase, if you get underneath the stairway, that's a really good place to go. I've surveyed so many destroyed houses, but you still see a stairwell kind of in place there. I'm not a structural engineer. I like to, kind of put on my structural engineering hat whenever I go onto the field and look at this, but for some reason, you see a lot of stairwells that are just kind of, remain in place. But I mean, that just shows it's just an interior, option right there. So that's going to be your next best place to go.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot of framing members. They're tied into the foundation. They're bolted in. So I could definitely see that. And I've had a lot of buyers that was their plan, was like, hey, they even have the builder push. But a lot of times there's like a knee wall or half wall back there. They'll have them push it all the way back, so there's room for the entire family.
Yeah.
And to your point about the underground shelters, they are still installing those. There's several businesses around town. What they'll do is they go in and cut a slot out of your garage floor, and they seat that down in there, and then you have a sliding metal door over it. However, there's a lot of holes in that door so people can breathe, what have you. To your point about critters getting in there, saw something somebody did really cool recently. I don't know if you've ever lived somewhere there's like a really cold climate, and they'll put like a vacuum sealed plastic over the windows to keep like the cold air from coming in.
Right.
They did that with their storm shelter to keep the bugs out. So, when you got to open it, you're going to rip that off. But I mean, it's super easy to do.
Okay.
But yes, kept it like nice and clean. I was like, that's a great way to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because that's the last thing you want to do is, you're already anxious from a tornado hitting your house. Last thing you want to do is be anxious with having to deal with a brown recluse or something like that hanging in there.
Copperhead down there.
Or even worse.
Because it's not going to be having a good day either. Right. It's down there. Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So that's stuff we do.
Yeah.
Where don't we want to be when a tornado is coming?
Well, obviously you don't want to be outside. Yeah, that's the number one thing.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be out there saying, "Come and get me, tornado." That's the last place you want to be. Cars are going to be bad.
Yeah.
Unless you can get in the car and drive as far away from the tornado as possible. But if you're just like, I'm in a house, I want to get in my car and drive away, that's not a good option right there. It doesn't take much to tumble cars. Along the same vein, too, is mobile homes and manufactured homes. I look at those the same way that I do cars. And talk about like manufactured homes, they're actually built pretty well to withstand wind. What they're not built for is to tumble and start rolling.
Yeah.
So that's what you get a lot with tornadoes and manufactured homes, is that the wind doesn't destroy them. The tornado doesn't necessarily destroy them. It's just the uplift that it gets pulls the anchor system out, and then it starts to tumble, and that's what ends up destroying it and killing people too. So we say mobile homes, manufactured homes are some of the worst places to be. So I don't really want to recommend necessarily a safe room in those. The safe room would be finding a better location, whether it's a county shelter or a friend's house or something like that.
For sure. And there are shelter maps online where you can figure out where to go. And back to your point when we first started this is that prep you do in advance of anything coming. Know your route there and know how to get there. Know if you've got to cover creeks or something. Like we have a lot of water here in North Alabama. And when it comes down from the sky too, those creeks in many areas overflow routinely.
Yeah.
Those of us that have lived here for a long time may know where those are. But if you're new to the area, or just, have moved just across town, right? You need to know your route to get to those storm shelters, particularly if you're in a mobile home or an older structure that may not hold up so well.
Yeah. And so, we saw this week or two ago where we had some tornado warnings out with the threats of flooding too. So those are situations where you have to kind of assess your own risk.
Yeah.
Are you going to be at risk at this moment from the rising water that's coming into your house, or if it's going to be the tornado? Because with flood warnings and flash flood warnings, we say get to higher ground, which is the opposite of what you want to do for tornadoes. So I mean that's what you have to kind of decide, like what's your risk that you're most impactful right now for you.
Sure, absolutely. No, that makes sense. And I would say at least flooding to me seems like it's a more spread out event. So maybe you have more risk of being impacted, but maybe not necessarily as devastatingly so.
Yeah, it depends on where you are too. Like if you're living by a creek or anything, or if you're out camping and that like this area tends to have like some water rising really quickly, then yeah, I mean it could be like that could be like the most critical threat right there.
Yeah, I'd never really considered that. I'm glad you brought it up. So we talked a little bit about advance warning as far as like forecast.
Mm-hmm.
What are like day of? How should people be paying attention to the weather? How should they get their information, their warnings?
So we always want to say that you need to have multiple ways to receive watch warning information from us. So anytime we put out a tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning, that's going to come from our office at the National Weather Service. And so for us, we cover 11 counties in North Alabama, 3 in southern middle Tennessee. And so we'll be putting out those warnings. And so whenever we put out those warnings, it's going to alert the emergency activation system. Now there's a number of apps and other sources out there where you can get this information. Weather radio is always a good one. That one we kind of promote as like a, smoke detector, but for,
Sure.
But for tornadoes. So like it'll wake you up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Real loud beep, and even whenever you're sleeping. Apps are a good one these days. I mean, everyone has an app on their phone, so be sure you have a good one that's gonna, send you that notification of a tornado warning almost immediately and not have to wait and anything like that. So make sure whatever you're downloading is going to be, higher rated and stuff like that. There's a number of TV stations around here that have real good, reliable apps. So I mean, I would recommend any of those too. Obviously, and speaking of TV, TV is good. You mentioned you have a favorite meteorologist and whatnot. I'm sure there's a lot of people that do. All the TV folks in the area are top notch, super smart. They know what they're doing. So I think you could turn on any channel and be pleasantly surprised with who's going to be giving you some life-saving information. And plus, all those TV folks are talking with us anyways. We have a direct chat system with them. So, we're all generally saying the same thing and everything like that and bouncing ideas off each other. And then, if you don't have TV, if you don't have a phone, like I said, I mentioned the weather radio, the absolute last thing you want to, have as a source is going to be the sirens. I mean, people hear so much.
You went there.
Some people say so much about the sirens, but again, this is Cold War technology we're talking about. It's not meant for you to hear it in your house. Like if there's a siren going off right now, we probably wouldn't hear it here in this building. Yep. It's meant to be as a last case resort. You have nothing on you. You have no technology on you. You're sitting out in the field. Yeah. Then you hear the warning. Then that's when you know. That's the only thing the sirens are for. And even with the sirens, the counties have to maintain those. Yeah. There's a lot of them. They can get expensive. So, the counties around here do a really good job on keeping them up, but they're not always going to be up. There's going to be, the more they go off, the more they tend to go down. So, I would not rely on sirens unless it's like an absolute last case resort.
For sure. I actually saw a really funny video recently where they opened the back of a siren and about 200 pounds of acorns fell out.
Yeah.
A squirrel had used it for its storage bin. That's something that my neighborhood's famous for because we have a siren right outside one of our streets nowadays, and it seems to be down as often as it's up. And everybody always asks, my wife and I are always on the Facebook group going, don't worry about the siren, get a weather radio.
Yeah.
And to your point about the weather radio to begin with, that's what we typically use in my house as our number one source. Because, if the power goes out, it's still battery operated. What's really cool, and I don't think a lot of people realize it, is you can set what areas are going to alert and what types of warnings will alert. Right. So we're not in an area where if we have a flood, we're going to know about it days in advance because we're just not an area where waters are concerned.
Right.
But so we're not setting flood warnings for 3 counties over, but we will set severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings and watches for, 3 counties over because that weather's blowing our way. Right. And we want a heads up, get the kids in, close the back door, get the dogs in, pick up stuff from the yard, to your point, if we haven't done it in advance of that. And then with the weather apps, the one I use, I make sure that notification's set to ring through even if it's on do not disturb. Yep. That way, if it happens at 2 a.m. Now the weather radio is going to wake me up. That thing's loud, and we keep it that way for a reason. But if for some reason I wasn't there, that weather app's going to. If I was here now with my phone on do not disturb, it would go off if there was a tornado coming.
Yeah. So the weather radio you can program for the counties, so it can't be for a specific city, but you can do it for the counties. And like you said, it's good to maybe have like a downstream county like out to the west. So like if you're in Madison, you might want to have Limestone in there. If you're in Limestone, you may want to have Lauderdale or Lawrence County. Those are good to have. The other thing that people may not know, on every phone out there, usually with all the major carriers, they have what we call WEA messages, which is the wireless emergency alert messages. And so those will give you a tornado warning even if you don't have an app on your phone.
Cool.
And so it's only for a specific warning. So tornado warning, it'll do thunderstorm warnings, but only if we say it's if it's a considerable or catastrophic thunderstorm. So winds 80 plus miles an hour, like baseball size hail. So we're talking about winds that are going to be basically like EF1 type strength. And then it'll also alert you for flash flood warnings, I believe, hurricanes, which we don't have here. And then this is also used for civil danger warnings and stuff like that.
Sure. Well, I think we ran the gamut on severe weather and tornadoes, how to prepare, what to know, what not to do.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming out and sitting down and talking with us, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Anytime.
Thanks for watching or listening. You can always catch us on audio on wherever you get your podcast, be Spotify, Apple, or you can watch our video on YouTube. Really appreciate you guys being here. Ask that you subscribe so we can keep you informed of everything going on here in Huntsville.